So I summarized just kind of the second half of the year because I know we coming kind of towards the end of stuff. So I'm just gonna go over a couple of things. In the second half, you guys can chime in or see if anything resonates with you. All right, second half of the year, it brought us the Delta and the Omicron variants. It brought us private space flights. It brought us the Olympics. It brought us name, image, and likeness for the NCAAs. Now these players of college athletes are making money.
Yay!
Yay!
The,
Yay!
the Afghanistan withdrawal, the finally passed the infrastructure bill. Then we got American inflation. We got the labor shortage. We got a labor shortage that defies the law of supply and demand. Somehow we can't offer them more money so people will work. I thought that's how supply and demand work, but those laws don't work. Only Biden can fix this.
Nope.
Um, and then what else did we do in this? Oh, you know what? We let the world know why we are the leaders of the free world. And another fine example of American exceptionalism, we also gave you the milk crate challenge.
Yes. Or as some said, the Hood Olympics.
Yes.
And
Quite a shameful display of humanity.
yes.
And of course, more violence, more violence.
More violence, more violence. And
Yes.
Build Back Better is on a respirator in ICU
Oh, you
with
know what? Yeah,
with COVID.
I should add. I guess we named two leaders of the of America. We crowned two kings, Omicron and Joe Manchin.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
man.
No doubt. Shout out to West Virginia. We love you.
Well, Delta and Omicron stick out to me in that, definitely. The milk crate challenge. It's one of those things where you almost feel guilty watching it, but yet you've seen at least one. We all
Yeah.
have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We fed the flame that we was complaining about. It's
Yeah,
like you pouring gas and calling the fire department.
yeah. But I mean, to be honest with you, like I might have watched two or three, but I never went out and was seeking, views of that. So it's kind of like, if you're that person,
Yeah.
are you fanning the flames?
Yeah.
I mean,
You are, but I don't know.
it's entertaining. I watched somebody. My son was watching it, and I guess he was watching it live on Instagram or something. And it's at Howard, and they over there in Banneker or the milk crates, and and he comes running over like, yo, dad, look, and he shows me, and it's a person that he was in a program with. He's like, yo, person, he's doing the challenge. He made it up like 3 milk crates. I'm like, yo, but he was so bright in the rites of passage program. He had.
Well, he was doing it. He was doing it as a trial. It's like one. My thing is milk crates to be off of records,
Yeah.
and where were these people getting so many milk crates? I didn't have in nanosecond of desire to do it, but maybe
Absolutely.
maybe
They
I
hurt.
live.
They
Maybe
don't
I live.
bend.
Yeah. See, thank you, A. Because one, I will say I am really trying to wrap my mind around this kind of old man version that's in my head. All I kept seeing was the pain. And in my mind, I'm like, yo, there's no way in the world I would volunteer myself to just hurt like that. But then I have flashbacks to us playing football at Banneker without equipment. So which is why the frontal lobe was not closed when we were playing football at 18. But my body now was
That's still
hurting.
different.
I know, but it was just, I was like, the hard plastic hitting you in your ribs, and you step and it flips
Yes.
up and hits your shin. Like there was some people that hit the ground and didn't move.
Yeah, there were times I was like, I know they got to go to the doctor.
Yeah, like it was, and then you were looking at some of them, and you could look, and this is a stereotype. See,
Yeah.
that's somebody calling about the milk crate challenge.
It's ridiculous.
It is so it's one of those things where it's like, yo, Kev, you're like, yo, tell me you ain't watched something and be like, yo, cuz ain't got no insurance.
Yeah,
Yeah. No,
Oh my goodness.
no, absolutely. The, See, when we play football, Tim, I could see the hit coming. I could know I'm about to be tackled. The milk crate challenge, it goes away all at once, very quickly. I don't think I would have did that at 20. I really don't. We played tackle football on dirt, but I grew
I
up playing
mean,
tackle football. I played tackle football since I was 7 years old. I played King
yeah,
of the Hill when it snowed. We'd go out
yeah.
in snow and play King of the Hill.
Well,
I
But
don't. I can't guarantee it. I don't know.
I don't
I
think I
feel
was
like
doing that.
I think yo, the way we fought in Drew, I didn't do that in high school. So
Yeah.
so so
I'm not saying some of us wouldn't have did it. I'm saying I know I would have did that.
yeah,
That just
we might have talked you out of it, but I think someone
Yeah,
somewhere in our crew,
would have did
yeah.
it.
yeah, without it. Just like we all said that the way we treat COVID now, if this pandemic had hit when we were coming of age, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, yes.
you know,
All
but we
right.
will see what comes out. What you got? What you got next as you start to bring us home, eh?
Kevin brought it up, and I think that it's something that's went largely unnoticed, but could have large ramifications for our society in the future. And that was one, I never liked the privatization of space flight. I feel it's like a government thing that should be controlled by governments, but we as a nation didn't have the stomach for spending the money. We didn't like the losses. When people died, it became a problem. So it's now privatized. And of course, something like space flight, only the rich can afford to do it. And this may not bear fruit right now. It may be something that Kyle has to deal with, or Isaiah, or their children. But I am concerned where we have something as important as the evolution of man and finances being a dividing factor. Uh, even even if we're just going up into orbit, or even if we get to the point where Richard Branson and his flights that go around the world that go to the top of the atmosphere, and I can get to China in an hour or hour and a half. Those flights are going to be flights that the average person can't afford. So I think that we might have missed something that is going to profoundly change society and how we travel, and also how resources are dealt with in the future when we go beyond Earth. So I know most people don't have a concern for it because there's a lot of things to worry about in our everyday lives. But I think it could be one of the most impactful societal changes if it remains a rich man's game, because that's only a small amount of the people on Earth. So I think there's problems that could occur that we're not even seeing. So that stood out to me.
Yeah. Putting it in that perspective, I agree. It wasn't something that I thought I would ever see. Being able to get sponsored and people getting invited to take a trip up to space. That was like wow. But you are right. So as soon as somebody tried to establish a hood up in space, it's over.
Yeah.
I think that if you look at what NASA brought, NASA is a government agency, and just the work of the fight of trying to get to space, they gave us, we got the GPS system, gave us large parts of the internet. There's just so much technology that exists that we all have access to
Yep.
because of NASA was run by this government organization. If it's run by Amazon, maybe you like if imagine if Amazon was doing this back then it would be like you might only get GPS on your phone if you got an Amazon phone.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have to
or
have an
you
Amazon account or
yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
and
You
this
have to be a
is
Prime member to get GPS.
yes, yes,
GPS would be reserved for Prime.
absolutely. And so undoubtedly they are going to come up undoubtedly they're going to come up with they're going to learn new technology. They're going to have new
Absolutely.
discoveries that could be used across the globe.
Materials.
And we're not going to have access to it because it's part of this private space race, and that's just going to create problems.
Yeah, yeah. I think what
Yeah,
you
I
said,
mean,
just what you said, just the lessons that could be learned from there that could advance regular travel in and of itself could
yeah,
change the global economy.
yeah, because that's what Branson wants to do. He wants to take planes, go to the top of the atmosphere or stratosphere, cut through all the space, and go from America to China in an hour and a half, as opposed to 12 hours or whatever it is to fly there. So that's one of the things he's trying to do.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's not a bad plan.
No, it's not. It's not.
but you got
But
to but you got to be in a position
to afford
to
it.
afford it. You know, I mean, just even as you were saying that you think about us as entrepreneurs, it takes some level of money to be able to make money. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
so it's like, oh, because that client that's in Cali, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna pay you after you do the work,
yeah,
but you got to have money to get to Cali.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't offer your service. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and so imagine then you're competing with a more resourced population that then has access where if you could get to China in an hour and a half, then you know, just think about how when the Acela train was getting you from New York to DC in under 3 hours. That was
Hmm.
a game changer. And
Yeah.
that the train going from New York to DC to be able to shoot there, have come back home. Imagine being able to do that to anywhere in the country and being able to do that anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely. Well, run to China real quick and pick up that prototype and get back this afternoon.
exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna catch the first flight out, and then I'll pick you up, Michelle, by the time you get out of school, because I'll be back.
Yeah.
Now, how that would impact our bodies and jet lag,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We need that 3D printed prototype. Go get it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So, but
Yep.
we'll be watching that as we go into 2022, and thinking about space, and as you were saying, it's like, yo, it's too hard to think about those problems because I'm thinking about what's happening right here in front of my face. And the last story I wanted to highlight in 2022 was this coming together of mental health, especially in the arena of sports, and how that has sparked a much broader conversation around mental health. And in 2021, it was definitely led by Naomi Osaka pulling out of the French Open, and then Simone Biles backing out of a number of the individual and or team events in the Olympics, and then even moving down the line later in the year to the NBA where you had Ben Simmons, but definitely was highlighted by Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles, and so just bringing this sense of let's have a conversation about mental health. And on the surface, you think that these athletes have everything, and for them saying like, hey, I'm not okay, and hopefully that opens the door for more people to be able to feel that there's spaces that are safe enough for them to say that they're not okay, because they took huge risks, because the expectations of our athletes are you are the best and you're supposed to just drive through it. That's what makes you great. And for a lot of people, their greatness was in the expressions of their vulnerability and humanity.
I really I love the fact that athletes, the professional athletes, are now able to go out there and talk about their mental health, talk about their struggles, and try to seek the help and support, and just add a little bit of humanity to what they do. Because too often we don't treat them like they're human beings. I'm old enough to remember. I think it was the Chicago Bears. I forgot who coached it. Because it was a quarterback. It could have been Jim Harbaugh, where they said that he had bothered him so much that he had to that he started to see a psychiatrist. I know there's been basketball players and other people that have had psychological problems, and we've kind of always just kind of laughed it off, like whatever, moved on, made fun of them, and now that they're actually taking a look and trying to help them, I'm hoping that we reach the point where somebody that's having mental health issues is treated the same as an injury, like they're just not available.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm glad that Naomi Osaka really came out this year. It really resonated with me. Um, I definitely would be remiss though if I didn't point out one Ricky Williams, who basically told us 15 years ago
Yeah.
that he had mental health issues, and he was mocked. Kevin Love, who last year with Cleveland, stated he had mental health issues.
Michael
Michael
Phelps.
Phelps,
Michael Phelps.
Michael
Yeah.
Phelps, who did a documentary on mental health, because think about it, you're an Olympian, you focus all of your training for one moment. You go years, 4 years on one moment, and after that moment, whether you're successful or you're not, majority of Olympians, that's it, and you're left with life after that. So to me, the important factor is change. So, like Michael Phelps brings about is trying about change for Olympians after the Olympics so that they can cope. And if a athlete is doing that, I'm all for it. If an athlete is really in pain and is expressing himself like Naomi Osaka, I'm all for it. I am concerned though, and I wish I would have. I tried to find the young lady's name, but I noticed later in the year there were athletes that were almost on the Naomi and Simone Biles train because of social media. And this one athlete was like, "Oh, yes, it's so hard for me, and the training is so difficult, and I've really emotionally been going through it." And I was like, "This is a person that I believe it was track and field," and I was like, "This is a person that is really trying to piggyback on the attention that other people have gotten," and that scares me because that isn't about mental health at all, and it's about likes and creating a brand and your platform. So I would say let's be wary of that, but let's honor all of the people who are really one going through something, and more importantly, people who are going through something who are trying to change the situation for people after them, like
Well,
Kevin Love.
I mean, and then for that, then they gotta acknowledge Naomi Osaka because in 2020 she had the mask that had
Yes,
all of the individuals who had been murdered, ending. I want to say ending with Breonna Taylor, and so that was her level of
yes,
activism in the summer and fall of 2020, and who knows the level of backlash and just pressure that that act
yes.
could have opened her up to on top of everything else. And then you get to 2021 and it just becomes
Too
too
much.
much.
Yeah.
And whereas for some we may have just kind of dismissed it like, oh, that's cool, but this is a young Asian woman stepping into tennis, doing that, and we let's remember we're talking about 20 somethings,
Yes.
regardless of the fame, regardless of the stages that they're on, they're 20 somethings. We were struggling in our 20s and our world was our crew. Let alone the world knowing who we are, and people are always going to try to get the limelight for the wrong reasons, but I just hope that more people feel that it's okay that
But
that you
the danger
treat
with that,
mental
Tim,
health.
is
Yeah.
people who are exploitive can ruin the positive work that needs to be done.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that young people today are more attuned to anxiety and stress in ways in which we never were. So
Absolutely.
I think that you're going to see it a lot more often for a lot of people, and it might not be at the critical levels of them, but they're going to feel it. They're going to how it's coming across to them. It feels like that same level of anxiety, that same level of stress, or whatever is kind of stress inducing. I mean, we've always had it. People get the yips. People don't perform well. People practice everything and they don't perform well. And those are all forms of different types of anxiety or things that are inhibiting them performing at their best. So it's going to just continue. You're gonna see more and more of it. My wish, and I think of football because I love football and I hate football. On a college level, these college players are not going to have access to this because of the culture of football.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and as we transition, you made a really great point about younger people today being more attuned. I think it's important for us as the adults in their lives to value without necessarily seeking to validate.
Right.
You know what I mean? That sometimes when young people are saying they're feeling a certain way, we tend to become kind of our parents. Like, I showed up to work sick. Remember our parents, it was proud. I worked 20 years and never took a day off. And, you like, what? And so I think it's important for us to value and not always be so critical where it has to be validated to us because then you can silence the individual from sharing with you.
Right.
Yes, but I also think as a society, we should also take the power of history and the power of past experience and the lessons that were learned by our ancestors and understand that there's value in it. And
Oh, yeah.
maybe the reason that they were like that is because people leaned into their feelings and there was no positive result to that. So they were like, all right, I just got to soldier on. And I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying, as much as what the youth are going through needs to be validated and respected, old school lessons are lessons because there was value found in them through experience.
No,
And
that's why I was saying to value and not seek to validate, meaning that they
okay,
gotta
all
prove
right,
it to
yes,
us.
okay,
And
yeah,
so because when I'm valuing their experience, it makes them more amenable to hear those
yes,
experiences
yes,
that guided me. But if I'm making, my son, he gotta prove to me that he's feeling anxiety,
yeah,
I've almost burnt that bridge for me to share exactly
absolutely,
what you just said, which is why I was saying let us value and
okay,
not be so quick to try to validate it, because that's more making sense to us when they're already trying to figure certain things out for them. Don't add another layer. Like, it's kind of like you go to the doctor, but you got to prove that you're sick before that doctor decides that you're worthy of care.
okay.
All right. So we're gonna end on me on an angry note. The last thing that gets on my nerves right now is the publicity and what they talking about the murder rate. First, I'm gonna put a couple of things out there. We know because of technology, there's cameras everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. We see more crime taking place. Just because we get to view it on TV, on the computer, on the social networking, doesn't necessarily mean that there's so much more crime that's going on. But I'm gonna put some people on blast for a minute, right? So the murder rate, we don't have it all for 2021, but we know that it's probably about the same, consistent with 2020. From 2020, it went up around 30%. Now some areas are doing worse, some areas are doing better. Of those, 77% of those murders were done by firearm. Also during that time, firearms went up. They broke a record last year in 2020. They went from like 16, a little over 16 million. They sold like 21, 22 million firearms. A significant increase in firearms, and there's a significant increase in murders. I don't know if there's a correlation, but whenever I read these reports, I don't hear anything about this correlation. I only hear about the Democrats. We bad. The police are mad. The police are so hard to do their job. Unfortunately, of these murders, 60 they only solve 54% of the murders. Currently, 54% of the murders. You know how crazy that
Wow.
is? And that went down. It was 61%. So, these poor beleaguered police, now they can't even solve crimes. There's more guns. We're holding them more accountable, and they can't solve crimes. I don't know.
And then, Kev, I'm sure if we had the time and the space, that 54% of the murders being solved are not equally spread around locales,
Oh,
zip codes,
I'm sure.
color makeup, because so I just wanted to just throw that out there that
I'm sure. I'm sure if you took those murders and you put off the red line map, I'm sure you'd see some
Yeah.
tendencies. But
Yeah.
but to me, this is the thing that's most alarming: the murder rate across the entire country, 7.8%. I'm sorry, 7.8 people per 100,000 were murdered in America in 2020. Pretty bad, right? Which is up over the past like 20 years. It's definitely up. The suicide rate is 13.5 per 100,000. That's
Talk that talk.
40%. The overdose rate is 27.1 over 100,000. Why do we continue to only focus on murder and we talk about murder in certain communities when America is out here dying?
Yeah. No
And
doubt.
also the real number, if you want to look at what has risen, is assaults more than murders.
Yeah.
So actually, if you think about it, from 1993 to the year 2020, crime fell. So even statistically, the odds of us continuing to, as a nation, have crime fall wasn't going to happen. Just statistically, I mean, things weren't getting that much better for crime to fall year after year after year until 2021. I mean, that's what is that? Uh,
27 years.
almost almost 30 years
Yeah.
of
And
falling.
and
27.
I want to jump on that just for one
Go
second.
ahead, go ahead.
Is So now that the murder rate went up, what you see in media, and speaking to the media literacy that we were talking about before, you'll see New York has a record number of murders. And then you'll read it and it'll say it has the most murders since 2011. And I think we're redefining the word record. And I see a lot of
Yeah.
newspaper articles in that way. Something is a record. And then you read it, it's like, well, since this point. It's like, that's not a record.
No,
Yeah.
no, and that's about
It's
back to what we
sensationalism.
talked about: social media clicks, uh,
Yeah.
getting an article read, getting attention because it's a profit
But we
situation.
also know that fear and profiling are multi-billion-dollar industries.
Yeah,
And so when you put out those stats, then you come with the home security commercials. You put out those stats, and then it comes with profiling and
Get
property
this.
values. And, I mean, there's so many things that are attached to it, to your point, that, like, you'll hear murder rates scream, but suicide rates will be the third leading story. But
the,
those stats would say otherwise. That we literally should be talking about overdosing and suicide and assault before talking about murder, and we're not mitigating and trying to gloss over any family who's been directly touched by that. Our hearts go out to you, but just having a data conversation and how that data gives a real state of our society is, we just got to do a better job and don't believe the hype, which is what the great Public Enemy said.
There you
I'm
go. You
wrong.
know what? 2021. 2021 going into 2022. Do better.
Don't believe the hype. Do better.
yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
it, it's it's true. The majority of people who are victims of crime were youth. They were also going back to Tim's point of view. Um, I'm sorry, my phone went off. My apologies. I'm like, what the heck is that? Um, but uh, the majority of people who are victims of crime are youth. They are youth who are don't have a lot of money. So this idea of people buying home security systems, middle class people of a certain age are not the victims of crimes. They're not. That not when you dig into the assault and murder numbers. And we'll put that up on our Facebook page for you to read some of these numbers because it's just it's a falsehood.
They're not victims at the same clip. they are
Yes,
victims, but yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah, yeah.
But
I understand you
if
saying.
you dig into the numbers, the people that need to be concerned are youth of all colors, not just minorities. It's equal across the board. The perpetrators are tend the largest group is um, black and brown youth, and that's obviously because of uh, socioeconomic reasons. But the victims are youth of all colors, all economic status. But once you make a certain amount of money and you're middle class America, you are not the primary victims of these headline grabbing
Yeah.
uh,
You may
crimes.
you may excel in the suicide attempts,
Yes.
overdosing, and overdose attempts because we often don't talk about the attempts. You know what I mean? Like you got suicide stats, but then if you add on suicide attempts,
Yeah.
then you really may legitimately be talking about records.
Because
And
that's the main number.
yeah,
Suicide attempts.
yeah,
Suicides in their horror are terrible. But the attempts, now you're
yeah,
talking the large majority of society,
and
um, mental illness
yeah.
that is not addressed.
And then contemplation. And I mean, Kev, I know you've been in schools, or you see them surveys like what they're like, oh, have you thought about in the past 30 days? Then have you acted on
Yeah.
in the past 30 days? That when you start to drill down, man, there's a lot of pressure that is going on. But Kev, I got one more story for 2021.
Go ahead. What's that?
Yo, my mic sounds nice. We've completed our first year of shows. It's our anniversary.
Yo,
Oh
it's
yeah,
our anniversary.
You know, I was thinking about
we
this. I was
did
like,
it.
yo, it gotta be a harder song for us than Tony, Tony, Tony.
Yeah.
I,
Yes.
I
Oh,
was like,
Yes.
we can't go.
oh,
Do you know what today is?
you're
I
right.
need I need that joint Rough Rider style. Like
For
I
real.
need I need the locks to do it for us, so we could like the locks
Yeah.
dip set. Like,
1 year. 1 year.
we we need Jada.
And and
Yeah.
and Tim will be happy, folks. This is my last day with these headphones, Tim. I have new headphones, but I said I'm gonna wear them
For the new
for the new
year.
season. I was like, I'm not gonna break them out today, so Tim don't have to see my cord anymore
I got
on
cord
my
too,
head.
but it's just that your
Ooh,
cord
that
is
cool.
vintage.
Yes.
We all have put like this. Kevin and I have straight cords. Aaron has a
Oh, you
coiled
got the coil.
cord.
I got the
Yeah.
coil cord.
Yes. Yes.
But I got one of the best. My headphones is legit though. You
Oh,
gotta
your head.
admit that.
Oh, no, no doubt. Like put like this. Your headphones were in the days
Travis.
when media was media.
Yes, yes. My
But
headphones give an accurate display of what things sound like,
yeah.
so that us filmmakers can make audio decisions. So that's why I have them.
But
But
no,
I
but that's
changed them. I found another pair that brought me into the 21st century.
but no, I just wanted to one, not only acknowledge 2021 is our first anniversary for doing this show, and it started from some text messages being exchanged, but also 2021 represented 35 years since we met at the tender age of 18. So we've been brothers for 35, and we decided we had enough to say that we would actually record and let other people hear what we were saying. So these are conversations that were birthed in the halls of Drew and arguments and the like. But this has been great, and I love taking the time and doing this with the two of you all.
Yeah, it's actually been a pleasure. At first it was a little nerve wracking, not really knowing what we were doing, trying
Take the little off. It was nerve wracking.
trying
Yeah.
trying to trying to figure it out. And then
Yeah.
I think as we're starting to kind of work our way into a rhythm, we got some exciting things coming up in 2022, which we're going to be
Yes.
hitting you with. Just working on steadily improving and hoping you guys will join us for the ride.
And
Yeah.
Aaron was being mad mean to us in the early stages. Let's keep this joint 100.
Yeah.
Like A was cracking that producer whip. But we
Well,
thank you. We thank you for it,
He's
brother.
flipping our mics over, just so craziness.
Be like, yo, go to Best Buy by the next show.
No, I will say this. I definitely have to thank Tim because we could have still been planning the show right now if it wasn't for Tim. Tim said, "Let's get on this mic and record." He looked at our show plan. He was like, "I ain't got time for this. You want to record on Wednesday? I'll be there." And that was the best thing we ever could have done. Absolutely the best thing. So I'm internally thankful for Tim making us make the next jump. And we've had some bumps and bruises, but like Kevin said, we're getting better.
Yeah.
We got some things coming in 2022. I'm putting my producer hat on both ways to get even better. And we promise y'all, stick with us and we'll stick with you.
And shout out to Lufi. Shout out to our brotherhood.
Yes.
So,
22 is going to bring you guests. So that'll be a new aspect of our show.
Yeah,
you will see some of the people that help make us what we are.
Yes.
So
Some
this
of
has
the people that
become a
deserve
comedy.
blame.
So we're becoming a comedy podcast.
For real, for real.
So if you love us, that's great. If you hate us, we'll blame them.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
That sounds like a plan, man. But Happy New Year, brothers.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Yeah, my mic sounds nice. This is A signing off.
My mic sounds nice. This is Kev.
My mic sounds nice. This is Tim. See you in 2022.